Hi, this is Kathleen from Bailey Academy, mom of 5, homeschooling 3 of them, ages 9, 12, and 16. Today I wanted to share our read aloud picks for the 2023-2024 year. I don't have all of them with me, and I don't know how to do the thing where you go like this and the picture appears. So I'm going to do my best to show you what I have and explain the ones I don't. Now, I do have lots of books I could pick from read aloud over there, but I don't like to just pick random read-alouds. I like to pick read-alouds that fit with our science, geography, and history subjects. So in September, we're learning about September 11th, 9/11, Canada in general, and engineering. So I picked out, for the beginning of the year, this one's from the library, so it's a little beat up. I Survived the Attacks of September 11th, 2001. By Lauren Tarshish. This is the I Survived series. So this won't take us very long to read. It's pretty big type. So I also have 10 True Tales, Heroes of 9/11, which is obviously 10 different tales. So we may read all of them, or may read some of them, depending on how much we get to. Because September 11th obviously comes very fast. And we are starting school till September 6th. So that's what I have picked. If we finish these and we want to read something else, then the other ones aren't starting till October, so I might just pick a random one off the shelf that isn't too long. In October, we're learning about the witch trials in early modern history, weather, and Canada still. So I picked out a couple. I picked out The Halloween Tree, this book, which was also made into a cartoon, or animated series, or animated movie, sorry, was one of my favorites when I was a kid. So it's very skinny. It's one that I don't see talked about on homeschool YouTube channels that much. Maybe because a lot of them are Christian, I don't know. But this is The Halloween Tree. So I'll read you the back since most people aren't familiar with it. But I just wanted to mention it's Ray Bradbury, who's the one who writes Fahrenheit 451, and can't think of the other names, but he's a famous author. So sit on the edge of your seat and enjoy master storyteller Ray Bradbury's classic adventure of 4 youths who try to save the spirit of their friend Pip from the ghosts of Halloween past. The 4 encounter a mysterious character, Moundshroud, who takes them on a magical journey that sweeps them back as far as 4,000 years and touches down in exotic places all over the world like Egypt, England, France, and Mexico. Along the way, they discover the magic and meaning of Halloween and friendship. The enchanting adventure features the voice, it says the voice talents, but that's for the animated series. But anyways, yeah, it tells you all about the history of different creatures that are part of Halloween, and it's going to be a fun tale. And then I don't have a copy, but I'm going to give it from the library, I Survived the Galveston Hurricane. So it's another one of these I Survived series, but it's about a hurricane, because we're learning about weather. For the witch trials, I either picked out I Walk in Dread, the Diary of Deliverance Tremblay, which is from the library, or more than likely, even though it's not fiction and most of our read-alouds are fiction, well, that's not fully true, but these read-alouds are fiction. I saw somebody mention the Who Was and What Was books, What Was the Salem Witch Trials, so I'm going to get that from the library because they have it in our library, most likely. Alright, for November, we're learning, it's a secret, but my kids aren't around. My daughter's learning about being a vet, and my son is learning about coding. And we're doing Indigenous history and Canada still. So I'm going to get Calpurnia Tate Girl Vet to read for the veterinary part of it. It's one that I've seen at the library before, and we haven't read yet. It's more like a kid's reader, but we're going to read it together. Sorry, I'm trying not to say Almost did it again. Silence is okay. Do you have trouble with saying let me know, whether in a video or if just in real life. I also picked out Forever Birchwood. I have never heard of it, but I was looking for books that were set in Canada. And so I'm going to read you what it says I'm just looking at the computer here, what it says. It's a middle grade debut. Adventurous, trailblazing Wolf lives in a northern mining town and spends her days exploring the mountains and wilderness with her 3 best friends, Penny, Anne, and Brandy. The girls' secret refuge is their treehouse hideaway, Birchwood, Wolf's favorite place on earth. When her beloved grandmother tells her that she is the great-granddaughter of a tree talker, Wolf knows that she is destined to protect the birch trees and wildlife that surround her. But Wolf's mother doesn't understand this connection at all. Not only is she reluctant to engage with their family's indigenous roots, she seems suspiciously on the wrong side of the environmental protection efforts in their hometown. To make matters worse, she just started dating an annoying new boyfriend named Roger, whose motives and construction company seem equally suspect. As summer arrives, so do bigger problems. Wolf and her friends discover orange plastic bands wrapped around the trees near the cherished hangout spot, and their once stable friendship seems on the verge of unraveling. Birchwood has given them so much. Can they even stay together long enough to save this special place? And it's set in Sudbury, Ontario. So, I believe I checked that this was at the library, I hope, because otherwise I'm not buying it. So, if we either read this for November, or we could read it for when we're learning about Ontario. But I don't have a lot for that for November, so those will probably be the books that we read in November. In December, I have a few Christmas books, but I picked out The Christmas Doll by Elvira Woodruff. Just a freebie that I got. Lucy and Glory Woolcott are sisters and the best of friends. They have no one but each other to rely on. They have little to eat and their nights are cold and damp. To keep their spirits up, Lucy invents stories about the family she barely remembers, and a lost doll named Morning Glory, who Lucy is sure they will find again one day. When a deadly fever sweeps through the workhouse where the girls live, Lucy and Glory flee for their lives to the mean streets of London. Now they must learn how to survive on their own. One day the sisters find an old discarded doll by the river that Glory is sure is their long-lost doll. But Morning Glory is no ordinary doll, and she works her magic on everyone around her. Sounded interesting. I also have written down... Oh, I forgot to mention... Alright, so I forgot to say that for December, we're doing Christmas and light in our science, and we're also doing the War of 1812 and Confederation. Just reading my own writing here, hold on. Oh, anything about the North would fit too, just because of being in winter. So, besides the Christmas doll, I also have heard of Hatchet by Gary Paulson a lot, but I did not know that it takes place in Canada. So, it takes place in... why did I pick it? It takes place in... Now I'm confusing myself. But anyways, if you're familiar with Hatchet by Gary Paulson, it says Brian is on his way to Canada to visit his estranged father when the pilot of a small prop plane suffers a heart attack. Brian is forced to crash land the plane in a lake and find himself stranded in the remote Canadian wilderness, with only his clothing and the hatchet his mother gave him as a present before his departure. Brian has been distraught over his parents' impending divorce and the secret he carries about his mother, but now he is truly desolate and alone. Exhausted, terrified, and hungry, Brian struggles to find food and make a shelter for himself. He has no special knowledge of the woods, and he must find a new kind of awareness and patience as he meets each day's challenges. Is the water safe to drink? Are the berries he finds poisonous? Slowly, Brian learns to turn adversity to his advantage. An invading porcupine unexpectedly shows him how to make fire. A devastating tornado shows him how to retrieve supplies from the submerged airplane. Most of all, Brian leaves behind the self-pity he had felt about his predicament summons the courage to stay alive. Now that I'm reading it, I'm not so sure that I want to use this as a read aloud. I think I will look more into it and find out if it'd be too scary for my 9-year-old. But also, in December, we're not going to have a lot of time for read alouds because of break. So, I'm thinking I might switch that to June, if we do use it as a read aloud. We may go back to talking about Canada in general. I'm also going to pick up Dear Canada Whispers of War, which I don't have with me, but it's part of a Dear Canada series. It's about the War of 1812. It's a War of 1812 diary of Susanna Merritt. And so that's perfect. It's by Kit Pearson, who I like as an author. So I will be using that from the library. And if we have time, I have Just Beyond the Very Far, Far North, because they were supposed to send me the first one. They sent me the second one for review. So if I get the first one from the library, because it's really short, and it's not short, but it's big words, it would be perfect for winter of some kind. Could also fit in January, of course, as well, or February for that matter, just because of the winter. So that might fit in somewhere. And I have the second one if we enjoy it. In January, we're going to learn about geology, the Underground Railroad, and Central Canada. So I have picked out Skunk and Badger by Amy Timberlake, which I got for review and liked so much that I made a study guide. Cat's being silly. See? And so I'll link that below in the description. I have it on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's not very expensive. And it's perfect for geology because Skunk is a geologist. So Skunk and Badger. So no one wants a skunk. They are unwelcome on front stoops. They should not linger in rock rooms. Skunks should never, sorry, not skunk. I meant Badger as this geologist. Skunks should never ever be allowed to move in. But Skunk is Badger's new roommate, and there is nothing Badger, who prefers to be left alone with his important rock work, can do about it. Skunk plows into Badger's life, and Badger's life is upended. Rocket potatoes are left in corners, tails are flipped, the wrong animal is sprayed, and why oh why are there so many chickens? Newbery Honor author Tammy Timberlake spins the first tale in a series about opposites who need to be friends, in a book to read, reread, and read out loud again and again. It's really cute. And even the beginning part has pictures of rocks with labels as to what they are. So I like that. So this is perfect for if you're learning geology or you just want a cute book for ages 8 to 12. And yes, I did get a review, but like I said, I didn't have to make that study guide. So I also picked out from the library, I'm going to read Elijah of Buxton. Now, I have heard lots about it, but I didn't know. I'm just looking it up right now here so I can read you the description. I did not know that it fit in. It is by Christopher Paul Curtis, and it fits into our theme because, where is the page I want? Amazon, there we go. It takes place in Canada. Okay, so Elijah Buxton, recipient of the Newbery Honor and winner of the Coretta Scott King Award. Okay, whatever. 11-year-old Elijah lives in Buxton, Canada, a settlement of runaway slaves near the American border. Elijah is the first child in town to be born free, and he ought to be famous just for that, not to mention for being the best at chucking rocks and catching fish. Unfortunately, all that most people see is a fragile boy who's scared of snakes and tends to talk too much. But everything changes when a former slave steals money from Elijah's friend, who has been saving to buy his family out of captivity in the South. Now it's up to Elijah to track down a thief, and his dangerous journey just might make a hero out of him, if only he can find the courage to get back home. So, I am not familiar if Buxton is a place in Canada for real or not, but either way, it sounds like a cool book and one that we want to read. So, that fits in with our just central Canada. Oh, that's right, I did look it up, and Buxton is a real place, and it's in central Canada. And there also, another pick would be The Incredible Journey. You know, the movie Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey is an actual book, and in the movie they take place in California, but in the book it actually takes place in Canada. I did not know that. Again, that might be in June, because I did want to make sure, and I hadn't decided if it was going to be read loud or if we're going to use it during history. But for the Underground Railroad, I have 2 books that could be used. Runaway to Freedom, A Story of the Underground Railway by Barbara Smucker, and Get on Board, The Story of the Underground Railroad by Jim Haskins. And I'm going to peruse these to see if they're kind of almost the same thing, or if we should read both of them. So I don't know yet if that's going to be considered a read aloud, or if we're going to use it during history. So those are my options. February, we're going to learn about communications, and the World Wars, and the West of Canada. Now, a good book would be Song for a Whale, but we already read it, and we actually didn't finish it, so that we don't have that. But I have books for the World Wars. I have, probably to no one's surprise, Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I read this as a kid, and it was a really good book. I mean, it's a sad story, but like really well written. Lois Lowry is my favorite children's author. And so we're going to read this. And I also happen to already have I Am a Star, Child of the Holocaust. So we're going to read both and kind of compare their stories. And the other choice is The Sky is Falling by Kit Pearson, who is another children's author that I love. I mentioned her a couple times already. And I will look up what the actual story is on her book. No, not the song. Apparently there's a song called The Sky is Falling. And there's apparently a whole bunch of books called The Sky is Falling. Okay, let's find the right one. Here we go. This could be used for when we talk about Ontario, like Central, or when we do this part here. So it's the summer of 1940, and all of England fears an invasion by Hitler's army. Nora lies in bed listening to the anxious voices of her parents downstairs. Then Nora is told that she and her brother Gavin are being sent to Canada. The voyage across the ocean is exciting, but at the end of it, Nora is miserable. The rich woman who takes them in prefers Gavin to her. The children at school taunt her, and as the news from England becomes worse, she longs for home. As Nora begins to make friends, she discovers a surprising responsibility that helps her accept her new country. Now, that's designed for ages 12 and up, so I need to look more into it to see if I feel like my 9-year-old is ready for it, or if I'm just going to stick with the other two, because this is already a hard subject. In March, we're learning about magnetism, women's history, because it's Women's History Month, and the prairies. And so the only one that I've picked so far is The Dog Who Wouldn't Be by Farley Mowat, which I'd already picked up and did not realize took place in the prairies. So it says, Farley Mowat's best-loved book tells a splendidly entertaining story of his boyhood on the Canadian prairies. Mutt's pedigree was uncertain, but his madness was indisputable. He climbed trees and ladders, rode passenger in the open car wearing goggles, and displayed hunting skills that bordered on sheer genius. He was a marvelous dog, worthy of an unusual boy growing up in a raw, untamed wilderness. We have a couple books by him that I picked up because I'd heard good things about them. So we'll be reading that, and I don't know what else. So if you have a book that has to do with magnetism of any kind or women's history, I don't mean nonfiction. I have those already. I'm talking about like fiction. Then let me know in the comments. And for April, we're learning about insects, Titanic, and the Atlantic Canada. So as I mentioned before, if you've seen my other videos, I got this for review. I asked for it. Iceberg by Jennifer A. Nielsen. And this is for the Titanic history. I'll read it again here. A mystery not meant to be solved, a ship never meant to sink, the adventure of a lifetime. Hazel Rothbury is traveling all alone from her home in England aboard the celebrated ship Titanic. Following the untimely death of her father, Hazel's mother is sending her to the United States to work in a factory so that she might send money back home to help her family make ends meet. But Hazel harbors a secret dream. She wants to be a journalist, and she just knows that if she can write and sell a story about the Titanic's maiden voyage, she could earn enough money to support her family and not have to go to a sweatshop. When Hazel discovers that her mother didn't send her with enough money for a ticket, she decides she must stow away on board the storied ship. With the help of a porter named Charlie and a sweet first-class passenger named Sylvia, Hazel explores the opulent ship in secret, but a haunting mystery quickly finds her. The danger only intensifies when calamity strikes, and readers will be caught up in the terror and suspense alongside Hazel as she fights to save her friends and herself. I hope this won't be too scary. I will let my 9-year-old sit out a bit if it ends up being too scary, but I will try to get her to sit through it. So we're going to read that, and then I didn't know what to do for insects. I have no books that are fiction about insects, so I looked it up and then saw what was on my library, and I picked out The Big Dreams of Small Creatures. So if you've never heard of it, Big Dreams of Small Creatures. 9-year-old August, an aspiring actor and bullied 4th grader, is looking for that very secret after a few disastrous encounters have left him wanting to squash every annoying bug into oblivion. After all, insects are small and he is big. I think that's only part of this descendant story. That didn't make sense. Okay, let's try that again. 10-year-old Eden's quiet life is upended when she saves a paper wasp nest from destruction and discovers, to her awe and amazement, that she and its haughty queen can talk to each other. The first conversation is the start of a grand adventure leading Eden to the Institute for Lower Learning, a secret laboratory devoted to the peaceful coexistence of humans and insects. The Institute is more fantastic and idyllic than Eden could have imagined, but hidden deep within its tunnels is an old secret that could spell the end for all insects on Earth. Okay. And 9-year-old August is looking for that secret because he doesn't like insects. But in the world of the Institute, where insects have a place of their own, both Eden and August discover being bigger isn't necessarily better, and sometimes the most courageous thing to do is to set out to make a new friend. I really hope that this will help my daughter not be afraid of insects, as well as learning about them. Okay. For May, we're learning about the environment, local history, and Atlantic Canada. And so since we're doing Atlantic Canada, I picked out Anne of Green Gables, which we have. Ellen Montgomery, most people know what this is, so I'm not going to bother explaining it. But if you don't know what it is, especially if you live in Canada, but even if you don't, you want to read it. And there's many more books in the series, so if your child likes it, they can keep reading. But I also picked out Judy Moody Saves the World, which I never would have picked for a read aloud because it's more like a little, kids book like Dear Dumb Diary and stuff like that. And ages 6 to 9, which is actually really gonna not take as long to read. But I found out that it actually fits with our theme, and I will read you why. This book doesn't actually have the description, so I'm looking it up, and the description says, it's taking forever to load. When her Heal the World adhesive bandage design doesn't win a contest, Judy Moody realizes it's time to set her sights on something bigger. Class 3T is studying the environment, and Judy is amazed to learn about the destruction of the rainforest, the endangered species that are not in her own backyard, and her own family's crummy recycling habits. Now she's in a mood to whip the planet into shape. So it fits the environment theme. I also have What is Climate Change, which I don't know might be read during science, but is still going to be something we're going to read. And that leaves June, where we're learning physics, more local history, and back to Canada in general. I do not have a specific book set for that month, but any of the books that we didn't already get to, especially the ones that are about Canada, would work just fine. If anybody has any read-alouds that would work for physics, that would be awesome. And I'm also I'm looking into, might just read, instead of like a fiction novel, I might just read books about local history. Like I have one picture book that's about our city that somebody made. So we're going to use that as well, but that's a picture book, so it won't take long to read. And that is the books that we are planning to read aloud. Now, I just wanted to clarify something that I should have clarified at the beginning. Sorry about the wobbling of the camera there. I mentioned in the homeschool schedule video, which I will link in the description, but we do before we do regular read aloud, just like everybody else does a read aloud, we have an extra time period, and either if we have like a holiday coming up, we might do something for the holiday, but if we don't, we have a nonfiction read aloud. So I have books that some are like not a specific topic, and some are for a specific month. Like for example, I mentioned Women's History Month in March, so I have a book called Fearless Girls and one called Gutsy Women. Same idea, but different stories. And also I have Nature Anatomy for when we learn about environment, so that will be learning a little bit about like a nonfiction text as well as a fiction. So I will be I don't know. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So if you have any recommendations for the ones I didn't mention, or if you have any recommendations for the ones I don't have, let me know. If you read any of these and liked them, let me know. If you read any of these and didn't like them, let me know. I love comments. And I'll be back soon with another video. Have a great day. Bye.